School counselors, welcome. I'm here with Stacy Russell. Stacy, will you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I am a middle school counselor at Camp Ernst Middle School in Boone County. I've been a counselor for 8 years. This is my 8th year as a counselor. I've been at Camp Ernst for 3 years, and then I was a counselor at another middle school in Kenton County for 5 years. And then before that, I was a youth service center coordinator for 6 years. So I've been in education. This is my 14th year in education. So.
Nice. Very cool. How are you taking care of yourself and your family during this unprecedented time?
It's been a struggle, and I think it's been a struggle for everybody. The needs of my students are really great, and trying to make sure that I'm available for them. But I have a kindergartner and I have a 3-year-old, and trying to make sure my kindergartner's doing her work, and my 3-year-old's still trying to develop some skills too. You just kind of have to create a schedule and stick to it, which has been, I think that's been the most helpful for me. But I'm also, we're getting outside and we're going on walks, and I'm reading. I've read way more books than I've had time to do recently. So.
Right. That's great. So I think that's important. So what I hear you say is that you're being a mother first, which is important, and you're also you're continuing to try and balance, being a great school counselor and being there for your kids as well, which is also important. I'm also a parent. I've got a 3-year-old and twin 4-year-old. So one thing that we're trying to do during this time as well is pay special attention to our kids as individuals. So it's easy to do group activities and to go on bike rides as a group, or they love to do water guns as a group with each other. But we've learned recently that it's really special to just have that one-on-one time with each of them. So, we'll take Parker and we'll play cars with him. He's our 3-year-old. We'll take Sean and Smith, and we might do a bike ride with Smith, who just got off training wheels. We might do some coloring with Sean. So, really encourage you educators out there to continue to balance that, being a great school counselor, being a great parent, but then also spending some one-on-one time with your kids if you have multiples. Stacy, how are you taking care of your school community, which includes, your teachers, your principal, of course, your students and your parents during this time?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're trying to do is just to constantly stay connected as much as we can. So, I'm fortunate that I have a co-counselor. We have 800 students, and so I have a co-counselor, Francine, who's wonderful, and we try to really work
Big
as a
shout
team.
out to Francine. She is wonderful.
She's amazing.
I just got a chance to meet with her last week. She is awesome.
She's amazing. So we really try to present as a team during this time. So we're sending out YouTube videos to our students, to our parents, to our staff about, we did one on mindful coloring, just really quick. What does that look like? What is that? How does that help you? And then Francine did one on, positive self-talk and how that helps, during times of crisis like this. And so we're just trying to send short little videos to our community to kind of let them know that we're here, that we still care, and that we're available if they need us, but also to still give them those skills that they need during this time, since we're not able to do that in a classroom setting like we've normally done before.
Sure, that's awesome. How are you getting those videos out to families and your kids?
Well, we do it in multiple ways. So we, as counselors at Camp Ernst, we have our own Twitter account. So we post those on our Twitter account. We also send them directly through Infinite Campus to the student emails and then to the parent emails. We put it on our school's Facebook page. Our district retweets them usually. Our principal does. So we're trying to get it out there in as many forms as possible.
Okay. Do you know your Twitter handle off?
Yes, it's at CEMS Counselors.
CEMS Counselors. Okay, I'll go out and I'll retweet some of your videos as well.
Oh, thanks. I think, as we're social distancing and we're self-isolating, I think, that becomes, you can feel really alone. And you can feel, even though you may have people in your house with you, but you can still feel really disconnected from your school and from your school community. So we're just really trying to, remind them that we're here and, that we're here to help, in any way that we can. And, we've had some kids that, we meet with our teachers every week for team meetings, and, we get on there and we're like, okay, who are you worried about? Who haven't you heard from? And, they've tried to reach out, but then we'll try to reach out. And, in very, very rare instances where we've not been able to get a hold of anyone and we've been concerned, we'll send our school resource officer out to check and make sure that they're okay. So
That's great.
we're just trying to make sure that, any way that we can to stay connected.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. So, you're doing those weekly PLC meetings with your whole staff, or do you and Francine kind of split?
We split them. So we have 3 teams in each grade level, and I work with the 8th grade. Well, actually, we have 2 teams in the 8th grade now. So I work with the 8th grade, and then I work with one team in the 7th grade, and then Francine does the 6th grade and the other teams in the 7th grade. So
Okay, awesome. So, and that's great because obviously you're able to focus on a smaller group of
yes.
kids, and you're getting more personal. You know the kids, you've got relationships with them already. So I think it's amazing that you guys are collaborating with the teachers, kind of getting a better sense of what's going on and who needs that extra help. I also think it's great that you're doing those check-ins with the police if needed, or your SROs. So that's great.
Sure. And we're trying to make sure that when we do that, and we've only done that a handful of times, but it's not so much about, hey, you're not doing your work. It's more of a, we haven't heard from you. Are you okay?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're not sending the SRO because they're not. Yes,
right.
Exactly. I think that's a great clarification.
Yes.
All right. So, Stacy, you guys have done a great job creating needs assessments for students and staff. Can you tell us a little bit about that and share some of those?
Sure. We've been doing needs assessments for a long time. This is Francine's first year at my school, but she was very much like on board, let's do it. And I've been doing them, I feel like as long as I've been a counselor, I've been doing needs assessments, which has just gotten so much easier with the advent of technology to do that. So what we do is we've done it a couple ways. We've done it right at the beginning of the year to kind of see what the kids' needs are immediately when they get back from summer. But right now we're trying to do it, and last year we did it this way as well. We're doing it at the end of the year. So we're trying to see, what were the needs of the students this year so that we can plan for next year. Okay. So that we can use the summer to kind of look at that data and say, okay, these are the classroom guidance things that we really want to hit on next year because these are the needs of the kids and
absolutely
things like that. So I have our 7th grade needs assessment right here,
and while you pull that up, I think you bring up a great point. So our needs assessments is just another way for school counselors to be data driven. And being a data-driven school counselor is going to be really, really important for all of us, right? One of the big things that we are faced with, one of the big challenges that we're faced with as counselors is we always have to feel like we need to clarify our role. It's going to be something that's really, really important for us, not only in our schools with our students, but also with our families, even with our own administrators in our own districts. So being data driven is going to be something that you really want to focus on. Other than needs assessments, another way for you to be data driven is to focus on attendance, behavior, and course passing data as well.
So actually, we've done that. We've looked at our last year. We looked at our our behavior data, and awesome. Kind of working with our PBIS team in our building to kind of look at those kids that insubordination and disrespectful behavior were kind of our high behaviors. So we looked at, those kids who have had multiple referrals in those categories. And then so Francine and I did groups with those kids this year.
I love it. That's exactly what we're looking for. That's perfect.
Yes. So here's our 7th grade needs assessment. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. We're basically, we asked if they're, what their gender is, mainly so that we can even just segregate this data even further to look at what are specific issues that girls are dealing with in the grade level and what are specific issues that boys are dealing with in the grade level.
Love it.
So we've done that. And then we just ask really general questions about, how they handle stress and anger, if it's hard to get schoolwork done at school or at home, if they're worried about drug use with their family members or other students. We ask about if their parents are divorced, but we kind of, in our Google Forms, we kind of make this, if they answer true, they'll get a question of, it bothers me that my parents are not together or divorced. Because what we've noticed is that, we might get, 50% of our kids who say, yes, my parents are divorced. And we're thinking, okay, we might need to do a divorce group. But when we really get down to the nitty gritty of that data, we realize that, that those kids, their parents have been divorced since they were 2 years old, and it doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
So, we would try to really get down to, okay, of those kids that are half parents are divorced, how many of it is actually bothering them, and it's still something they need to work through.
Right. Yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome.
So then after that, it kind of goes through, what they feel about bullying at school. Do they have a hard time making friends? We also work with our youth service center coordinator on this needs assessment, because she has to do that as part of her continuation program plan. So rather than sending out, 3 or 4 different needs assessments from the school, we just kind of combine what she needs and what we need.
Smart.
So, there's questions about school supplies and, do they need basic needs kinds of things. We ask about careers and colleges, obviously, to pull in that college and career piece. We ask about a lot about executive functioning skills to see if, and that was actually a big one that we noticed in our needs assessments last year, was parents, teachers, and students said that they need a lot of help with executive functioning skills. So, we ask things about that. We ask about, whether it's your family has had someone pass away recently, but we also add that you're really upset about it, because again, like the divorce question, it could have been a while and they're okay.
Yeah.
We try to get into a little bit of the depression and sadness, questions about this, but we also added last year, which I thought was really interesting and helpful information, is we're asking them how much or how late they are on their phone during the week. So, how late, do your parents take your phone away at, bedtime, or, are you on it until 1 a.m. or later? Because that can give us some really good information as far as, they're staying up till 1 a.m. and that's probably why they can't focus,
Right.
during the school day. And then we ask them about how much time they're spending on social media, which gives us a, really good clue as far as kind of their behaviors there. So that's pretty much the student one. And all of them are similar. Our incoming 6th grade one is a little different, because we ask them about whether they're nervous about starting middle school, things like that.
It's really good. I think I can see why this data would be so beneficial for you, and really beneficial for potential small groups in the future,
Yes.
For individual counseling in the future, and then even for sharing data with your school community or your families, your leadership team, your teachers. I can see how they would really benefit from seeing this data as well.
Absolutely. We collect email addresses. So, we make it known to the students that we are kind of trying to identify, so that, we can kind of reach out to just those specific students who are saying, yes, divorce is bothering me, or I've lost a family member and that bothers me. So we can really kind of pinpoint and target those kids.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Would you mind showing your parent one?
Sure. And I will say that what we do, in addition to kind of showing, doing these needs assessments and sharing this information with our school community, Francine and I will also do once a month, we share like a data summary of what we've been doing that month. Sorry. So what we do is take the data of how many kids we've seen that month, and we put that in this data profile, and what the top issues were that we have been seeing, how many meetings we've done that month, and how much time that has taken, how many classroom guidance lessons we've done that month, and what kind of how much time that's taken in our month. And then meetings like ARC meetings, 504 meetings, how many of those have we done, how many small groups we've done, so that every month we're kind of sharing with our school community what we're doing so that parents aren't asking, or, teachers aren't asking, well, what do they do all day?
Right. Right.
um,
I think that's great because again, you're clarifying your role. You're showing the power and the impact of of a school counselor and a comprehensive school counseling program, which I think is invaluable. So that's amazing.
well, we also want to be very transparent about, we are able to do those things, but there are other things that take our time too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so this is our parent needs assessment. And again, we collect email addresses so that we can kind of, reach out to any specific parents that have needs or concerns. And then we just ask what grade level their child is in, 5 topics that you feel are most important for their children at Camp Ernst. And we, talk about a lot of different things, grief and loss, bullying, things like that. Any kind of parent workshops or family nights that they would like to attend, on, what topics would they like to see us offer, and then when they would be willing to offer, when they would be willing to come, when they're available. And actually, we're getting a lot of people who would say they would really like for those things to be online so that they can watch it later. So we're going to really try to work on that next year to be able to do
That
that.
was going to be so. I know the big question in the back of people's minds when hearing you talk about that is always,
Yep.
how do you get people there? So so you're going to try that online, a different online platform for next year. Okay, that's interesting. I will also say that that one thing that we did, I love that you even offered the morning session.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that we did was coffee with your counselor.
Yeah.
And we would have parents that would come in, and we would just literally get a little, carton of coffee and some bagels, and just provide that. And parents, we would create a round table so parents could just ask questions. Certainly, we would have a few different topics that we wanted to address at the beginning, but then we would open the floor up to any questions that they had, any concerns that they had, and we could address them right then and there. So that's also another method that might be helpful.
Yes, we tried that last year, and we didn't get a great turnout. But I think if we continue to offer it and people see it multiple times, like, hey, this is happening, I think a turnout would increase for that.
Yeah.
But one thing we also did this year, we tried something different in that we went to them. So we went to one of our school communities that is a community of townhomes, and we went there at the beginning of the year. To kind of answer questions for parents on, how do I fill out school forms or things like that. So we went there for about an hour at their clubhouse and was just there and available to them.
Yes, and I can't tell you how powerful that is when you're willing to say, we understand that there are barriers that exist for you, and we're willing to come and bring this information straight to you. I can't tell you how happy and engaged that makes your family. So so yeah, kudos to you guys. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is just the rest of our, parent needs assessment. We do ask if they had a positive experience when they were in middle school, because we kind of find, sometimes that if parents didn't always have a positive experience, sometimes, you know, that can transfer sometimes and unintentionally. So, it's just good information for us to have. But with, we're asking if they're raising a relative.
Yeah. Let me just say this about, can you go up one? When
Sure.
you talk about if parents didn't have a good experience in middle school, well, that's the very same when parents didn't have a good experience with their counselor,
Yep.
right? And a lot of, for some of our older parents, their counselor was probably called a guidance counselor
Yep.
who was doing guidance counseling at the time, which is very different than school counseling and what we should be doing nowadays. So, so again, re-educating them on the role
Mhm.
of the school counselor, how you're very different than guidance counselors of the past is going to be really important as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then again, some basic needs questions. And then the last question we ask them are what they kind of feel like the top 3 health issues are that are interfering with their children's learning. So, is it lack of sleep? Is it mental health issues? Is it hunger? Stress, things like that, which has actually given us some really valuable insight. into kind of what are things that the parents feel like the kids are that are holding the kids back from being successful.
Sure. And again, that information can potentially drive those individual
Yeah.
sessions, small group sessions, or even those school counseling curriculum lessons that you do. So
Yes.
it's great. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
I want to finish up with just asking you, as a middle school counselor, what does social and emotional learning look like for you? What is your role with that in your school?
We are very fortunate that we have an incredibly supportive principal who feels that it is our role in the school to be in charge of the social and emotional learning in our building. So we do it in a lot of different ways. So we do have the second step curriculum that our teachers are doing. We have a mentoring time every day. It's 30 minutes every day. So the teachers once a week will implement a second step lesson. And then Francine and I, at the beginning of the year, we work with those teachers on, we do a sample lesson with them, and then we meet weekly to kind of talk about the upcoming lesson. And, here's some things you can say, or here's some examples you can use. So we kind of front loaded that at the beginning because we know that there are some teachers who are a little uncomfortable with delivering social and emotional learning lessons. So we try to support them as much as we can in that. But then in addition to that, we kind of feel like that kind of lays the basic foundation of social emotional learning. But then we go in based on our needs assessment data from our staff, from our parents, from our students, looking at discipline data, looking at attendance data. We kind of pull all of that data together to kind of see what are some of the hot button issues that the kids are dealing with that year, and what can we go in and help with. So for example, social media was a big thing with our kids this year, and using it responsibly and being respectful online and things like that. So we partnered with our SRO, and Francine and I both went into every class, and we did a social emotional learning lesson on, what does it look like to be safe online? What does it look like to be responsible
Yes,
online? What does
so
it look like to
important.
be respectful?
It's so important. That's
Yeah,
great. That's great. Okay, let's finish up with this last question.
sure.
Do you have any just general advice for school counselors at this time um, in terms of uh, just best practices as a school counselor? You've been in education, you said, now for 14 years. You've been a school counselor for, I think you said,
Eight,
six, eight,
eight.
8 years. Thank you, 8 years. So what are some best practices that other people can steal or borrow from you that you think will help them with their careers?
Well, I think you saying steal or borrow, like that's exactly it. I think I think best practice is, we need to, as a state, as a profession, we need to be moving more toward data-driven school counseling, and we need to be looking at that data and showing that, what we do as far as social emotional learning and things like that in our building is valuable and it's important, and no more I think this time has just made that incredibly more evident. Um,
I
and I
agree.
think I think that the more that we're able to do that, even though it's difficult, I am still the ARC chair in my building. I'm still the 504 chair in my building. I'm still the back in my building. Francine and I share the back or the ARC responsibilities with our vice principal, but there are still lots of other things that we do. But we try to just start small and be really intentional about our time so that we're still able to do those really important things. And it's not always the case that you're able to do that. I completely understand that. I've been in situations where it's not always been the priority for me to be in a classroom. But you just start small and get into one classroom once a month, and take some data on that, and then present that data to your principal or to whoever to kind of show that this is making a difference. And
Right.
I think the more that we're able to do that, I think the better that it will be. But I also think connections. I know in your elementary video, a lot of them had been talking about connections with your family and connections with your students and your school community. But I also think connections with other school counselors is vital.
So important. Yes.
It's incredibly vital, and I think a lot of the things that we do here at Camp Ernst have been borrowed from other counselors in our district, other counselors across the state, other counselors across the nation. I'm in a Facebook group, Caught in the Middle School Counselors, that I get tons of ideas from that. Our data profile that we send out, I found that on that group. We're creating a virtual calming room for our students on our website right now,
Oh, that's too cool. That's
which we
amazing.
got an idea. We got that idea from that Facebook group. Twitter is an invaluable professional learning community.
Yes, it is.
So we do that, but then also the connections that I've made in this state by being a member of our state school counseling organization, the Kentucky School Counselor Association, those have been the connections and the relationships that I've made as being a member of that organization have been invaluable. I mean, they inspire me to be better for my school and my community. And, being able to reach out to a counselor in Western Kentucky and say, hey, what are you doing? Or I saw that you're doing this, can you tell me about it? That's been invaluable. So I would say, along with creating a data-driven program as best you can in your building, making those connections with other school counselors is incredibly important.
Yes. And let me just add, you were talking about kind of creating priorities and basically sticking to them, and starting small with those. One thing that I'd really like to get all of our school counselors in Kentucky doing is this summer you should be taking time to create an annual agreement with your
Yes.
principal and your school administration. That annual agreement can be found, you can use the template on ASCA's website. And you can get it for free. But that annual agreement is going to basically say, all right, principal, these are my priorities for my comprehensive school counseling program. I know that you have other priorities for me, which might include testing or being the ARC chairperson, et cetera. How can we compromise and how can we kind of meet in the middle so that my needs, for me to feel like I am doing my job well and really, creating an impactful comprehensive school counseling program are going to be met while also meeting the needs of, while also meeting your needs. So, doing that annual agreement is going to be extremely important for all counselors, and
Absolutely.
it's going to help you do the things that you know in your heart you should always be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you should consistently be doing it. It shouldn't just be a, well, if I get to it, I'm gonna get into classrooms, or
Right.
if I have a little bit of extra time, I'm gonna try and work on social and emotional learning. These are things that are standard practice for my program.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Stacy. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know other counselors are really going to benefit from the information you shared. I anticipate you getting some emails
Totally fine.
for some resources. So, do you want to go ahead and put your email address? Tell folks how they can reach you.
Sure. It is Stacy. My first name Stacy, Stacey, .Russell, Russell, at Boone, BOONE.kyschools.us.
All right, awesome. You're amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Keep up the great work, and then we'll certainly be in touch soon.
All right. Thanks, Damien.
Thank you. Hello, school counselors, and welcome to another edition of our Counselor Connection. Um, I'm here with Amanda Warder. Amanda, will you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Amanda Warder, and I am a 7th grade school counselor at Bowling Green Junior High here in Warren County. I am lucky. I have in my building, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and there is a counselor for each grade. So we have a counselor and assistant principal for each grade, and I've been a school counselor now for 14 years. This is my 3rd year here at this school. I did 11 years at another middle school here in town. And before that, I was an 8th grade science teacher. So this will be my 20th year in education. I have 2 children at home. They're teenagers and probably not out of bed yet, which is embarrassing. But this NTI has been a struggle with my 7th son. So.
Awesome. All right. It is 11:30 here in Louisville, Kentucky, and 10:30 in Bowling Green. So just for reference for everybody else. All right, Amanda, how are you taking care of yourself and your family during this time?
Well, I've tried to make schedules to try to keep the kids on some kind of schedule. As far as I go, I am doing a lot of phone calls, and I'm a very big people person, so this is very, very hard for me. And just trying to reach out and socialize the best I can. A lot of Netflix, I'm not going to lie. shows. So
Netflix. If that is helping you self-care,
it
then
does help.
go.
It's just time I spend with my husband, honestly, something
Yeah.
we can
Well,
do. And
that is important. Yeah, bonding with
mm.
your significant other, especially during this time, is really important. Thank you. All right. How are you taking care of your school community, which includes your teachers, your principal, your students, your parents, et cetera, during this time?
Well, I have a seventh grade group text, and I check on my teachers at least once a week, sometimes more than that. Of course, they're very used to being able to get in contact with me if they do need help in any way. My students, I have borrowed an emoji emotional check-in that I send out on my Google Classroom every Monday, and it has all these cute little emojis, and they check how they're feeling, and then they can put how I can contact them if they need to talk to me. Some of them like me to text them, some of them like me to email, and sometimes I have to call parents. So that's kind of how we do it. And I'm like, just even if you're feeling good, just let me know. And so they send me little messages every week, so I can kind of keep in touch with them.
Cool. And are you getting a pretty good response rate?
Unfortunately, I have a lot of students that do not have internet access in my school building, which is dominate a lot of my time, as well as making sure that they are getting their NTI packets. I've done a lot of home visits. I'm safe. I practice my 6 foot social distancing, but somebody has to make sure these babies get their work. So, but I do, from the kids that do have internet, they're doing theirs. And then of course I've been calling and checking on a lot of my students that check that they do not have internet access. But
Gotcha.
yes, the ones that have internet access are doing a great job. And then I use a scale 1 to 10 with them after
So good. Yes. I love to
yes.
hear that.
And it's easy, and they're able to just let me know. Like, I just may randomly text one of them and say 1 to 10, and they'll kind of tell me where they're at and why. Or so it's simple. They're not all big talkers, but my middle schoolers, they get 1 to 10. So that's kind of what we've been doing.
Right. And just as a reminder, counselors, that scaling is a counseling technique from focused brief counseling. So definitely use that when you're checking in with kids. I think that's really good. How honest are kids being with you about how they're feeling?
The ones that I think they're being pretty honest. There are a few that may just be checking that off to have their to-do list done for the week on their NTI. But I've had a lot just share that they're stressed, or they have a lot of anxiety and they miss school. A lot of them be like, "Miss Warder, I do not like this NTI stuff. I miss school. This work is not fun." So I feel like they're probably as honest as they are, at least when they're here. You just have to watch. It's harder as a counselor because I don't have that face to face with them every day, and being able to read the signs that you see even without them speaking.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's tough. But I have a few that text me daily wanting to know, like, okay, when is this? When do we have to have this done? And I really miss school. And then I have a few that's like, I love this. So
All across the board, huh?
yes,
I
it's
got
middle
it.
school.
Right. Right.
All across the
Right.
board.
Right. And for everybody else out there, I had the pleasure of getting to visit Amanda maybe last year at her school, and just see her energy, and really connected with you, and saw that you were willing to go above and beyond for your students, and do whatever it took to make sure that they felt supported and had what they needed. So I know that you do that on an everyday basis when you're in your brick and mortar school, and I'm sure it sounds like you're doing that even when everybody's out of school. So that's great. Okay, so what seems to be the most important thing you can do right now for your students and families?
Right now, I'm just trying to give them any way I'm trying to give them as many resources and ways to access us that they can have, which is a wide scale to my students. I have a lot of low socioeconomic without internet, and I have a few kids that's been evicted, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to stay in touch with them, get to their homes, do what I can, and then all the way up to my higher end students who are stuck at home. And if they're like me, they are missing people. So I'm just trying to give them as many ways to access somebody as they can have.
So important. That's so important. Going back to your home visits, we strongly recommend that folks that are able to do home visits, they do that, but that they do it with another adult. Are you able to do that with another adult?
Well, you might have to cut this out. I don't know. My CAP partner, my assistant principal, and I, he's part of my small group of people that I am being around. So yes, we travel together and we'll see the kids. So
Yeah, no, I think
part of
that's
my group that I'm not social distancing, I guess, with his
right.
family.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And when Amanda says CAP partner, she's talking about that counselor assistant principal partnership, which is really, really important. And you guys lead the 7th grade team there at Bowling Green Junior High.
Yes.
And I know that there are some shenanigans between you two. He likes to joke around and play games with you. But I think that's
Yes,
important
got to see that yesterday.
Yes, I think that's important for you guys bonding, building community, and then being leaders for your team of teachers. So I think that's really cool. Okay, what is unique? And I already know some things that I want to mention, but what would you consider to be unique about your comprehensive school counseling program at that middle school?
Well, I really feel like our district supports counseling. We have in our school district from 6th grade to 12th grade a counselor per grade, which is, by far
Yeah.
better than most. We also have 2 mental health counselors that I work closely with that are hired through the district. So I think as far as our counseling department goes, our program, having that each grade level, I have, which is still too many, but I have 300 kids that are mine, which is better than most, honestly. Yeah. So that's kind of, and just our big focus this year was to make ourselves available in any way we can. I really want to get away from that stigma of counselors that are, more of office workers, especially when you start going into middle and high school, that only do, scheduling and registration.
Paperwork, yeah.
Yes. So this year was we've really made some big moves in the right direction as far as the kids.
Yeah.
Accessibility. Mm-hmm.
That sounds amazing. So how did you do that? And what would you suggest that other middle school counselors who are interested in really getting out there, being more visible, being more accessible, and again, getting away from that stigma, what would you recommend to them?
Well, I would say get out of the office. Get out of the office. Don't have your office in the office. We just made a huge move. When you come to visit us last year, you saw we were in the very small office space in the back of the main office.
Yes.
Kids would have to get through the main office to get to us. We weren't accessible. I mean, I always was out in the hall. I was in the hallways and I was, I saw kids, but it just wasn't as easy for kids to see me as it is this year. And what we did is we made a plan and we developed a counseling center in the center of the school. So we are right out there in the hallway now. And inside of our center, we have 2 other offices for confidentiality with shades. And so kids are in and out of my center. And then we have 2 other smaller offices for kids to see us as well. We do share one big office, the main office, and then we have the smaller rooms for privacy. And it has been a game changer. It really has.
Absolutely. And I can actually speak to that. We used to have a counseling suite at Seneca where all 4 counselors were tucked away in a small suite and a small hallway, very similar to your old one. Eventually we moved. Each of us had our own floor that was among our team. So my office actually became we redid an old classroom, a smaller classroom in our English wing, and that's where my office lived. And to be able to step outside between hall breaks, if I heard a concern in the hallway, I was able to go out there and check. Just being among my people, being among my teachers, being among my students, it was a game changer. So if that is possible for the layout of your building, then I would strongly suggest it. Um,
I'm glad you
some,
mentioned teachers because, you know, when you're in the suite in the back, they don't see everything you do. And when you're right among them, they're like, wow,
yes.
you're always busy. Yes, I am.
Yes,
So
always, always. And it's
teacher
nice
that
for them. It's nice for them to be able to come in, if they're on their planning period, or even if they're in the middle of class and they have a student that's really going through something, for them to just step out in the hallway and yell down and say, "Hey, Dr. Sweeney, do you mind coming over here and checking on this student?" Or, something like that. So it was always just so, so nice. So we realized that it might not be feasible for everybody. We know that many of our school buildings are jam packed, and to be able to offer a classroom to different school counselors might be difficult. But if there is a way, then try to make that happen for yourselves. All right, Amanda, where are you in your school building right now? Will you show us a little bit about your space that most of us are going to be extremely jealous of,
yes.
including me, by the way?
Uh, So I'm in the counseling center, and right now I'm sitting in, we call it the calm down room. And this is one of our smaller offices. My mental health counselors use it a lot. We've used it for social services to visit. But if you look, I'm going to come out. This is the room. And when I made it, my vision was for it to be very homey. So it's very comfortable. And I have students that may come in. We have a corner over here with fidgets and whatnot, and they can say, "Miss Warder, I just need 5 minutes. I don't need to talk. I just need to calm down." And I'll put in a timer, and that's what they do. But we do a lot of individual counseling. We also do some group counseling, as you can see. That was left over from March. With that, I have also have a lot of Western school counselor and mental health counselor students that come in and utilize that room to see kids.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I have a partnership with them. This one is this is the other smaller office room. This is set up more for groups. I don't know if everybody can see. We have our bookshelf. Sorry, we have some boxes from NTI folders, but so we run a lot of small groups in here. We have lunch in here with kids sometimes. We also have computers set up where if they need to time to work, we pull kids to do academic work in that room. And then this is the main office, which is the 3 counselors that we have that are here all the time. And then we have a little corner for our mental health counselor when he comes to visit, which before he had no spot. So he's very happy with this corner. And as you see, it's right in the middle of our school. So that's the 7th grade hallway right down there. So
That is awesome.
kind of our center. And we do have teachers come utilize that calm down room too.
That's really cool. Now you were telling me that you found a grant and you were able to really use that grant, that money from the grant to get new flooring and really remodel in those spaces that you just showed us, right?
Yes, that was an old shop room. This was when it first was built, this was a shop room. And then when I started here, it was an ESL room. And then they used the 2 smaller rooms really just for storage. So we had the perfect space. And then I contacted the chamber, our local chamber, and they have a group it's called Lee BG, and they do a project. And so I applied for us to be the project. And we got it. And so all summer, last summer, I was over here helping. They laid the floor. The team did. It's all local business people that were on the team. We painted. We did it also. It was about $10,000 worth of
It's amazing.
money that they raised and did use for this. So it's really nice. We even had a decorator on the team.
Wow. Wow.
No.
So what I'm hearing from you though is that you took it upon yourself, along with your colleagues, to really take ownership of your comprehensive school counseling program, look beyond the school, look beyond the district to find ways to improve it, work with community members. That's really really amazing. So kudos to you. Like I said, most of us who are watching this video are going to be extremely jealous, but it certainly gives us something to strive for.
Well, you guys
Um,
come visit. You can come see me anytime.
Yes, yes, and I will attest that my visit with you and your team was really, really, it was inspiring. It was really, really cool.
Thank
Um,
you.
Tell us, you showed us the space where you do small groups. How do you identify kids for small groups, and what themes have you chosen to use for your small groups this past year?
Well, all three grade levels, we give a needs assessment at the beginning of the year. And we ask things like, I need help with making friends, or I need help with parent relationships, or that sort of thing. And then what I do is I pull, and I also, I mentioned my partnership with WKU students. And so if they want to run a group, I'll say, okay, I'll see what kids need help with grieving or whatever group they want to do. And we start from there. So it's a base. That's how I start, is with my needs assessment. I also use the persistence to graduation to, work with kids and make sure I'm targeting and talking and putting them in a small group or doing individual counseling with the kids that are at the top of that list. And then this year we started something new, a partnership with a local doctor, called Preventure. She came to us a couple years ago and said, I just come to a conference about opioid addiction and everything is reactive, and it really hit me that I want to do something proactive with kids to stop that addiction. So she had done a lot of research, and we were on board. She helped raise money, and then my district met it, and we started using Preventure, which is a Canada-based program, and we implemented it this year in 7th grade. So that was a whole different needs assessment, and it targeted kids with high anxiety, like anxiety, depression. I'm trying. They use different words. Sensation seekers and impulsivity,
Okay.
and the kids scored in a certain area. So we ran a lot of groups through that in 7th grade this year.
All right, so counselors, you've heard from two different middle school counselors at this point who have both emphasized needs assessments and how they really help you identify different students and different interventions that are going to be necessary moving forward. So that's great, Amanda. Thank you for saying that. Actually, I've just recently spoken with a national opioid abuse prevention center, and they're very interested in approaching opioid use in middle schools and prevention in middle schools. So I'm sure that they'll want to get in contact with you. Um, all right. So let's finish up with, how do you handle social and emotional learning as a middle school counselor?
Well, don't have. We're actually trying maybe next year to do during our specials or our related classes, running with the three of us running a related class where they have 9 weeks of social emotional learning. That's experimental, but we don't have scheduled classes, but we work with our social studies and science teachers, and we go in and do classroom counseling through them. I try to get in there about once a month at least, just to see all the kids and do some social emotional learning. And then, of course, we run a lot of small groups and then individual counseling through those screeners.
Awesome. Okay. You and I spoke a little bit about the new school counseling standards of practice. And you said that you had some big plans for next year, you and your team. So what are some of those plans that you have?
Well, one of them is we're going to do this trial with the related classes and just see how that works, because not every kid has certain related classes, but we're trying to figure out, and it is trial and error, how we can access more kids. And I just want that accessibility to kids is just so important, and it's something that we lose, I feel like, as we go through the age levels, the
Sure.
grades. So.
Sure. And I know when we were speaking earlier, you were speaking about advisory councils and starting an advisory council.
Yes, we made notes when we were on the training yesterday with you, and that was, we were texting back. We need an advisory council. We want to make, we do these things, but we don't have a nice written out program. And
Yes.
so I appreciated the little template you had up yesterday, and that is kind of our big, as a team, as a counseling team, our big goal for next year is to have that all on paper, and also data collection. So we want to make
Yes.
sure that we do these things, but we want to make sure that we're able to show someone that we're doing these things.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to be able to advocate for your role and to clarify your role. So one of the things that I'm suggesting to counselors is that you prepare. Right now is a perfect time. You prepare a quick 7 to 10 minute flashlight presentation for a future for your comprehensive school counseling program. That presentation can be used certainly with your staff and your school administrators, but also with your students and their families and other community representatives. I think that's going to help other people see that school counselors have really evolved from that term guidance counselors. That is really it's a no-no because we do so much more than just guide students, right? We really work to help the entire student, the whole child. So that's going to be something that's really important for all of us. So for all school counselors watching this, the training that Amanda's referencing, I worked with GREC, which is one of our educational cooperatives in Bowling Green, and we talked about the need for counselors to do an advisory council. They should also have a mission and vision statement for their comprehensive school counseling program. So those are kind of next steps that I'll be using to work with GREC school counselors in the future, and hopefully hopefully we find time to work together on that wherever you are as well. Okay, last thing. Amanda, do you have any other advice for school counselors at this time? And it could be, in reference to the pandemic, or it can be in reference to just once they're back in their schools. What other advice might you have for other counselors?
My advice is, I guess it's more of encouragement. You're doing good things. I know that we have the personality where we want to be with those kids and helping those kids, and just doing what you're doing is helping. They are hearing from us. They know we love them, and we just are in this together, really. I know that's cliche, but
No,
we are.
no, it's good. It's a good reminder that we need to be easy with ourselves, counselors. You are doing it. You are working hard. You're most likely trying to balance being a parent or a support system for somebody else in your family, along with being a school counselor and being great at and you're trying to be great at both. So this is a really, really challenging time, and just be easy with yourself and know that you're doing the best that you can, and that's all we can ask. Amanda, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.